If you're new, welcome to my channel. If you're a returning viewer, welcome again. My name is Ibu. I'm a software engineer. We do everything web development. What we're building today, it's an e-learning platform. So there are few tutorials that happens in the past where we build a dashboard, we build the courses, we also build a blog section. In today's tutorial, we'll be going over a form, and this form will allow content creators to be able to come here, add a new course, give it a text, give it a description, and so on, and a video URL. So a little bit, we're using Vimeo to host our videos. So since this is something that I'm building for myself, there's no point to do a video hosting on my own. So one thing that you could do, AWS is an option if you want to do it. But yeah, in today's tutorial, we're focusing on using Vimeo. I'm just going to click on this. So here it will create whatever I have here. This is part of the default values. We'll go there. So let's say the course that I'm creating today, it's sports management. Let's say it's a sports league management in Prisma, and I'll give it a description. Just right now, I'm just going to write and it needs a demo URL because every course that we have needs a demo URL. So I'm going to close this, go back to the courses page to show you why that demo URL is needed. Because we should create a course like what I'm doing right now. This is part of the demo of what you guys are expected to learn. So if I go to a course, you see here it's a list of courses that I'm showing. So if I visit any of these courses, I think right now I haven't added the button to navigate, but let's just manually navigate to any of these courses just to put an ID. So for now, this will just pick up one of the courses and it will just render the course. What you're going to see here, so don't mind about this error. So it's just some hydration errors that we're going to fix. I'm not logged in, so that's why this Vimeo URL is not showing, but let me expand this. Here is where the demo URL is going to show up. So if I'm logged into my Vimeo account, you guys will see that a demo URL will show up here, and we're going to have an enroll button. And here is the course content. So something that you're going to notice here, each course has a section. So each of these sections has videos under it. So here is a section. Right now, these are just random text that I'm getting from Faker.js. That video happened in the past. If you're interested in how to generate this data on the front end, just for testing before you hook it up to the real backend. So if I click here, these are the different subsections. So for each of these subsections, it has a title and a video URL. So if I go to the land page, if I click on this, it will navigate to the land page. So it will open that video on this site. So that's why in the form, we're going to have a section. So here is where we're creating a section. So for each form, for each section, we can create as many subsections as we want. The same way it goes. You see here, it's a section, but it only has two sections. So let's say if I click, if I go on LAN, that is the next page. We'll hook these guys up once we hook it up to a backend. Let's say if I navigate to the LAN page, did I spell it as LAN? I think I did spell it as LAN. Let me see what is happening here. Is it uppercase? NLEARN. No, let's go back to the code and check what is this. So let's go to the app, courses, course ID, then LAN. Yeah, this should navigate to the page. So inside the course ID, there's LAN, LEARN. Did I spell that correctly? Yes, I did. Somehow. Oh, okay. I see why this is happening. So this demo URL that I'm showing you guys, let me navigate to the actual project that I'm building with you guys. I think this demo URL doesn't have that LAN page. So here we're going to go to courses. Within courses, we will go into, so that you guys will see the LAN page. So the demo project that I was showing you guys did not have that LAN section. But the project that I'm building with you guys on YouTube, part of the series did have. So you see here, we have that beautiful loading schema. I'll go to 12, any random ID, and I'll just put LAN. Here, this should now show the LAN page. And from the LAN page, I'll show you guys why. If you clone the project, you will have, it's on GitHub, by the way. So everything is open source on GitHub. There you go. We now have the LAN page here. So you see it's telling me to log in because I'm not logged in. So give me 1 minute. Let me just log in so you guys can see that there's a video that shows up here. Okay, so let's continue. I now logged into my Vimeo account. And as you guys can see, now the video is showing up. This allows us to, I can play the video. You can see it's going to load the video and it will just play. I'm just going to pause it. What happened next is, as you can see here, I can click on any one of these and it will play the actual video. Right now, I haven't hooked that up. Once we have the backend ready, so here is just the front end. Once the backend is ready, we'll now hook that guys up. So we can return back to the dashboard page, and within the dashboard page, we will now see the add cost section. So now that you guys see how the cost looks like, we can go to the add cost. No, it's not on the costs, it's on the dashboard page. So if I click on add cost, we have a cost name. Within the cost, we have a description of the cost. We have a demo video URL, which is the URL that shows. So if that is before this page, the cost page, there's a video that shows up, which is just the demo video URL. There's a project name where we select a project and what framework this cost belongs to. So let's give it an example, and then we just fill this while you guys. So it says that this is a backend cost that we're going to do with Prisma. A description, I'll just put it here for the description. Demo video URL, I'll put this URL, and then I can choose a project. So each cost belongs to a project. So I say this it's a sport management league. I'm just going to put the project is sport management because the backend here is Prisma. Another cost could come up where the backend is Express.js. And now let's discuss a section name. So let's say the first section is pagination. Within this pagination, now the subsections will now come into play. So here, this is the section name, and these subsections, each of them have a title and a URL. So if I go to the demo here, we can add a title. For example, this would be Introduction to Pagination, a video. And then I'll add a video URL that is hosted on Vimeo. I can also add another subsection where I would say pagination types, for example. Then I'll add another video for pagination type. So in this case, we added one single section, and for this section, we added the subsection. Since this is an array, we can add as many as we want. The other option is we can remove a section. So here I can just click either where the add URL is or the add type is, and this will delete this section. So another way that you can do it is within this add section, you could have just placed the button here so that once you delete it, it deletes everything. But now I have it here, so you delete any one of these, they're gone. Let's test that out. So if I delete this, that section is gone. That subsection is gone. So I can also, let's say, choose a framework. This one is about Prisma. I don't have Prisma as options, but this Prisma is going to show up here. Let's say this was a Prisma related, and I will click on this. So I can add a section. If we go back here, you guys can see that we have many sections, and this section has 5 videos. So this also allows our adding of our costs to also have as many sections as possible. One thing, since this is also using React Hook form, we also have form validation behind the scenes. So if any of these are not met, the user cannot create a form. One thing that we are going to do probably is once this form validation is not met, we can just disable this create cost so that users cannot click on create cost. Anyway, so let's add a new section. We can click here, add a new section. So we give it a section name. It's the same thing as what we did above. Let's say if this section is about filtering, you can just do filtering and then add a title, add a subtitle. We can do as many as we want. Once we are ready, then we can click on create cost. Right now, create cost is not going to work because a lot of these things are missing. So for us to test the validation, let's say, let me remove this demo URL. So you see the demo video URL is required, and it says, please enter a valid URL. So yeah, once you guys have seen what we're building today, and once all the requirements are met, if I click on create cost, then the values will now be transmitted. So either once we hook it up to our backend, we will decide if we're going to use Node.js server actions so that everything will happen on the server, not on the client, or if you want, we can use the API route as well. So yeah, once you guys have seen the demo, without wasting more time, let's dive straight into coding. If you're new here, I'm using shadcn as my UI library. I also have previous tutorials that covers the creating of the dashboard, creating of course, the landing page as well. So yeah, check my YouTube channel. One way of supporting my channel for the work that I do is please you subscribe and like this video. let's get ahead without wasting more time. The focus of today is the add cost. So this part of this is the tutorial, and now we need to sit back to our project. If I click on the dashboard, you can see we just have a temporal button here in the last tutorial. What are we building? So we're just going to dive straight into coding. But before that, I'm using shadcn. If you move here, and the seed that you guys saw up here, this here, it's a shadcn component that we're going to use. And we're also going to build it in such a way that we're going to make it reusable. Because this is not the only form that we are going to have. So in every project have so many forms. Not every project, but some projects have more than one form. So we need to organize it in a way that we can be using. So this is the seed that we are going to use. So right now, if I click here, open, it opens it on the right. So this is what we're using here today. If you don't have it, you can just install it. If you're following the tutorials, we have used this seed before, I think. So we do not need what. Let me double check if we already installed this. I'm just going to go to the UI. SHEET. Yes, we do have it installed. I think we use it in the landing page where we saw the hamburger menu for when the screen size is small. So yeah, I'm not going to install it today, but if you just started a new Next.js project and you just want to start from where we started today, since you need to just copy this and then yeah, paste it. We are using it in a form which is a little bit different from what they're doing here. But yeah, no problem, no issues. Let's dive straight into it. The first component that we are going to create is a panel, obviously. And this panel is going to be reusable. Let's have it in a way that we can reuse it very easily. What I would do is I'm going to create a new component inside here. So inside, let me collapse dashboard, let me collapse courses. Inside components, I'm not going to put it inside any folder because it's one of the components that is really reusable across most of the other places. So I'll just create panel here.tsx. So just call it panel.tsx. In this panel.tsx, I will just bring in the code for panel.tsx, but we'll go into the each and every part of panel.tsx just to make sure that we understand what is going on. And I'm going to try to explain as much as I can. So the panel.tsx, let me close this here. Let's go dive into. So it's using, let me open the code for shadcn so you guys will see. As you can see, the code is very similar to what shadcn have on their documentation. So to open a sheet, just copy this code on shadcn, paste it in, just paste it on your code. In our case, I'll go with you guys, and the code will be available on GitHub. So you can type it because I'm going to be explaining. You can just get it from GitHub. What is happening here is we have a sheet, and each of these has a trigger element. I think this is one of the smart things from shadcn, because with this trigger element, you don't need to have any instruction. So your components could still be Cycle components. So we have a trigger elements here. So it's very similar to whatever that they have. They have seed trigger element and then the content. In our case, the content have the content contain the content of our form. So we have the content. Now let's focus. Since you guys see that we're using the shadcn form, if you have another form, that's okay. We will dive into the details of React hook forms, because since we're using React hook forms, and you guys don't necessarily have to use shadcn form. I highly recommend it, but you don't necessarily need to use this form. Yeah, let me expand this and we can go into the code. So what we do. So there's a trigger element here. In our case, since I'm creating this component to be very reusable, this trigger element that you're seeing here is coming, we are going to pass it as props. Just to make sure that, because what you can see here is we have in our trigger element, we customize it to be add new cost. So we can have another panel that the trigger element is something completely different. So we can just pass that component there, just to make sure we can have it as customizable as possible. So here the trigger element is what we are passing as props. The seed content is probably one of the most important, and we're going to dive deeper into what is happening here. So first, this is probably one of the most usual things, declare it to be flex, and then put a flex column. So if I hover over it, you're going to see what is applied, flex direction of column. So to see this, I install an extension, the Tailwind extension. You just click on the extension if you're using VS Code, search for Tailwind extension. So once you search for that Tailwind extension, then you can install it. But what we're doing here is we're saying that it's a flex and it has a flex container. I'll explain what this guy is doing later, but let me just cut it here so we can put it towards the end. So I'm setting the width. I'm saying that the width is full, right? So it can take the full width, but I'm giving it a condition. I'm saying that the max width, when I'm MD, so MD is 768, I think, yeah, 768 pixel. I'm saying that the width needs to be 785 pixel. So which means once we're on a smaller screen size, it is going to take up the whole screen. So in order for us to do that, let me do the demo here. So see, it is now the width is actually responding really well. But if I go above, it's not exceeding this because this is MD, right? And if it is MD, I want the size to be not more than 768. Another way to do this would be, you don't necessarily have to do this. Let me just add a comment here in case I do that. I know teacher. No, I cannot do that. Well, but something that we can do is you don't necessarily need to do it at MD. You can just say max width. For example, you can just set the max width to be 785 pixels. So even though you say that the width is full, it can never exceed this. So let's say max width of 785 star. Yeah, 785. So these two guys, they do the same thing. Just, yeah, this or the other styling, they all do the same thing. Here is a very basic, setting the text to white background. And on small screen size, I'm just removing the max width. I'm saying that there is no max width on small screen size. This is also not necessary, 100% not necessary, because the width full is covering it. And there is no max width at that point, we really don't care. And the other one is overflow of order. I think that is the one that I cut. What that is doing is it allows our overflow of order. It allows us to have as many as possible. So right now, this is what is allowing me to scroll. If I remove the overflow of order, it wouldn't allow me. I'm not able to scroll. So let's say I remove this overflow of order, and then I try to come here, and then am I running? Well, I'm running this project, so we do not have a demo of this. This is the previous project, the demo project. So that those changes I'm not going to reflect here. But yeah, you guys trust me. Yeah, so if I put overflow of auto, we will test it later. If I put overflow auto, it allows us to scroll here so that we can have as many as possible. Overflow hidden, meaning it's only going to take the screen size, whatever that overflows, it's not going to take it. So now that we have the basic style for our seed, within the seed, we have the header. So for the header, in this case here, the header has a cost, which is create a cost, and we also have a subtext, which is like the secondary text. We're passing both of them as prompts. If this was the only form, if this is your only form, feel free to just put it there. You don't have to pass it as prompt, but I want to make it as customizable. Or you can use it in a separate project for, say, you have form that slides on the side, just you reuse the same product. So I have header here. This is a very basic style. I'm just giving it a text. I'm saying the text need to be text 13XL. Description, I did not put anything. Now, the part that is important is the form here. If you are using React hook form, you need to put it inside a form. This form comes from, shadcn. It seems like we do not have the form. That's why we are having the red. So we need to install form from shadcn. So where is form? This is sorted F. Here is the form, and we need to install this form from shadcn. Where is the command? So here is the command to install this form. I'll copy it. Let's open the terminal. Let's run in here. Let me stop this. Let me click that. Oops, I wanted to type ls instead. Yeah, seems like this is our project. Let's paste it here to install the form. This will install form from shadcn. We are going to use the form. So this is going to be one of the important part of today's tutorial and we are also going to use Zod as well. I think once we install form, we have the dependencies also installed for us. For example, Zod, if I'm not mistaken, will also be installed for us. But let's check this documentation for a little bit while we wait for our form component to be installed. So it's using React Hook form behind the scenes. And the majority of the tutorial today will be on React Hook forms. So for React Hook form, you need to define a form. Each of these form you have a resolver, but before that you need a schema. Each form have a schema, so that you see that validation that I was running is a schema. Let's run our project back. Yeah, and there this will run the project. Do this. Okay, I need to increase this for those of you who are viewing on mobile. Surprisingly, a lot of my viewers are actually viewing on mobile. So let me zoom that out so that you guys can see it. Yeah, so here's the Zod form. We will build the form later. So for now, all we're doing is we're building the panel, and later we will now build the form. So nothing that we're doing is related to, well, it's related to the form, but not exactly the forms. And we will build those slides later. So here is give you an example of how to build your form. This form that in the example here, it's a username, and they're saying that it needs to be a string and it needs to have minimum 2 characters. So you have a form here. So this is the form component. We have the same form component here, right? So we have this form component, and they also have a form inside that form. So this is the form component that comes from shadcn, and here is the form. In our case, the reason why I did this, because we are going to build for each of the panel that we're using, the form is going to be built separately. That is why I'm passing this form here. Let me go to the props so you guys can see. So the first prop that I'm passing is a form open header text. We talked about this guy, which is the title. I have the submit button text, cancel button text. In this case, I call the submit button text is going to be create course. The cancel button text is going to be cancel. Header description, which is just this description here that I'm passing. Children. So we'll talk about children later. I haven't gotten to that. Trigger element, I think we already discussed trigger element, which is the element that is going to open. That if you click it, is going to open or close the panel. So as you guys have seen the props, these are just on submit, on open change. So functions that we're passing. What else? Something I'm doing here is it's function parameters, where you can destructure it and then assign it a value. So I know for the most case this is going to be cancelled. So what I'm doing here, and since this cancel button text is optional, I'm giving it if the user does not pass cancel button text, we default it to cancel. If submit is disabled, if the user doesn't pass it, we disable. We initialize it to false. So this is a way of initializing a variable in JavaScript in a function parameter when it is optional. So you can just say that if this doesn't exist, use this, guys. So without going off topic, let's get back to our code. So we have this form here, so you guys can see directly from the shadcn, and there's this other form here. So this is just a normal HTML form. What happens inside the form is there's 2 sections of the form. One of them is these guys here. So the whole form, starting from here, or anything that we need to fill in, I am going to pass that as a props. Why? Because every form is going to be different. So within this panel, someone creates a new form, is going to be completely different. So that's why I pass that as children here. That is why this children, it's here, which is like a React node that we're going to pass in. And then we have the footer. So the footer is just the last part of the form, which just allows us to either cancel or we just submit our form. That's why we have these 2 guys here, which is the submit and then the cancel. So I think now that the form, the sheet is a little bit clear, feel free to just type it with me. Is there any part that I did not explain? I think the CSS is a little bit straightforward. So we already explained that part. There you go. So we just have, so this, in this case, if I check this form, it's not going to have anything because the children is going to be empty in our case. So if I save this for the form, let me see. Now I have the panel. The next thing that I need to create is the add cost form, because we now need to have a form that add cost. In that case, we will now import this panel that we have. So let's go back to courses inside the component. Inside courses, let's create a new file here called addCourse.tsx, addCourse.tsx. Here we will now import our panel. I think now most of this that I was explaining we will now add up now. So I'll do this, just paste this. Let's close this, guys. Let's close this guy up. We need to comment this addCourse form for now. And here I will comment it because we have not built the form. So the role is expecting a children. Let's put it this here and then put height. So because we'll build the form later. So let's put a simple height here. So what is happening here? This panel is the panel we just created just now. So that's why I'm just importing it from panel. Just focus on the panel. The other part of the code we will go there. So the panel here, I have a form. We'll talk about the form later. See, this is the title that we're talking about. This is the header title. I'm saying it should be create a course. It should also have a description. So it should also have a description. It should also, the sub button is called create course. This is what you're seeing. Once a user submit the values, we get those values here. We can use a server action, whatever that we want to just send the data back on our database, whatever it is. It's very simple. The trigger element, in our case, it's a button because that was also expected to be a prop. So we said add a new course. Now that we have this, let's test it out. But before we test it out, let me explain the schema. The schema is very important in any form that you're building, especially with Zod. So what is Zod? It's basically a form validation that we don't have to do behind the scene. I've worked on projects that I have to do form validation myself. So having things like Zod out of the box, per se, thanks to whoever is behind Zod, it's an amazing thing. You really don't have to do the validation behind the scenes for yourself. It's a lot of work that they did save for us by just defining a schema. So if we go back to the course, we have a course name and we're telling this is the validation that is happening. We say that it's of type string and we give it a minimum. It should be 2. The characters should be 2. So if a user does not give the course name at least 2 characters, then it is going to throw an error and it will not allow the form to be submitted. If this was JavaScript, you would have just gotten this from the input .target.value.length if it is less than 2. So it just makes the code so much messy. This is just so beautiful to have. The course description, similar to course, I'm not going to explain that. The next one is the URL. So Zod has a lot of methods and one of them is URL. Because we put in a URL and we want the URL to be valid, it's going to do the validation for us. So I'm just saying Zod.string.url, please enter a valid URL. The next one is a framework that I'm saying that minimum character should be 1. Project section, this part is very important. We're going to dive, at least we'll spend some time to explain, because during the demo, you see, if I have a section, I can have a title, and then I can have so many subsections, which is also an array. So I have an array of arrays. And updating these guys are not going to be easy with, and also having validation behind the scenes. So section is an array of objects. So I'm saying z.array, which just signifies this an array. It's an array of objects. So each of these arrays will have an object. The object that it has, we have a section name, which is basically a string, saying that section name needs to be at least 2 characters. Now the section list video, it's also an array of objects. Because if you guys notice when I'm adding the course here, this is a section here. The section alone, it's an array, right? So because we can have as many sections. Within each section, it's an object, right? And that object has a title. It also has another one, because you can see I can put add subsection here, add subsection, add subsection, add. I can add as many as possible, and these guys are also going to be in an array form. So that's why we have this section video list, which is basically here, where I'm adding a URL and a title and URL. That's why I'm saying it's an array, but an object of URL and title. And I'm saying that please enter a valid URL, please enter a title if the character. And I'm checking the validation here. So what this is doing is, I'm saying that it's an array, yes, but then you need to check that I'm using the refine method on it, and it's to check array.length should be greater than 0. So at least we need to have something that the length of that array needs to be greater than 0. That is, anytime if we have a subsection, it should be. I think we need to replicate the same guy on the, because seems like this is doing it on this guy. So we need to do the same refine as well on our actual section. I think this is something that I missed. Yeah, see, while explaining, I was able to capture it. So yeah, we need to do the same refine. So this refine is for the first section, just to say that, oh yeah, our section should contain at least one video URL. The message should change, say section, minimum section should be 1. At least, like, there's no point of creating a course without a section. So minimum section should be 1. Right, and the validation is here. So now that you guys have seen the validation, if you have a completely different requirement for React hook forms, please feel free to just build the validation anyhow that you want. And then I have an add course panel. And within the add course panel, I'm just using the use form. So this use form, it's here, it's coming from React hook form. Then we define it. It's just some TypeScript where we infer type of form schema. The resolver is Zod resolver that is going to run, and our schema is just a form schema. It allows us to pass default value. Here is just for you guys to know that if you create a form, you can pass in a default value. In my case, I really do not need to pass in default value, but I'm just putting tester so you guys will know that yes, you can pass in a default value to this form. And in this case here, the default value is testers. And yes, there is also course description here. But the default values are empty. I'm just putting this for test. We are going to remove it. And there you go. We now come back to our panel. So this form here that we are passing to our panel as props is basically the form that we create here, which is going to handle most of the validation for us. Now that we have this without the cost form, let's try to import this component and render it instead of where we are rendering our add cost in the dashboard. So guys, remember in the previous tutorial, we did this. If you are not following the tutorial, just start from here, just render it anyhow you want. Here, this is rendering as file, of course, and I'm just going to render this add cost here for now. Let's import it. Yes, it's imported from there. Let me save that. We come back to our demo here and see this should be changed to add cost. Did I run the project after installing? Yes, it did run. Maybe taking time to load. Let's reload the project and see. We expect this add cost to change, and it's going to show us. Well, when you load in cost, it takes a lot of time for it to pop up. Sometimes the server components and all that. But yes, so I'm hoping that this will show up now. Then yeah, compile successful. There you go. So now we have this add cost button. As the moment of the let's test if it's going to work. If I click on add cost, nothing opens. Oh yeah, it did open. So now we have our cost here. It's come up. It's very beautiful. We have this high here, which is the cost content, and we have this cancel and then the create form. What we now need to do is to build a form for the create cost. In this case, right now we just have a temporal. Let me create a component that we are going to use. So the component is just a create cost component, and it's going to take sky as prop. This component is very important, and we'll talk about it. But not just that, something. So let's see, where are we creating this component? So inside courses, where we have the add cost, let's create a new one. Since this is related here, let me call it add cost form. Add cost form.jsx. I'll just bring in the code for the add cost form. I'm going to talk about the add cost form. So this part was a little bit tricky actually to implement, just because for each of these we need to implement. It seems like we do not have upload image as well. So looking at the cost, upload image is a very simple component, which is just this component which allows us to upload image. So we will replace this with an image upload thing or Cloudinary, one of them. I'll make a decision once I'm done with the backend on what to use. So I'll just bring in the missing components and then we'll go through that. One of the missing components is just upload image, and upload image seems like it's a very simple component. All it does is just source up this button with some text about upload image. So it should be inside, not dashboard. Let me minimize. I don't think we need dashboard anymore. So inside here, let me just create, since this will upload image.tsx. So here is a component for upload image. Very simple. It's just a button that we wrap, put a style around it. We just have some SVG about, and the SVG is just this guy here for the upload. We said upload product by browsing, drag and drop the image for a very simple component. I'll just save it. If we come back to our add cost form, it's a little bit complicated, but we will go to every single one of the add cost form. The other one is text area that we need to import from shadcn, because as you can see here, this is a text area. It's not an input. We do not have a text area yet. So we need to go back to shadcn. Where is text area? Text with TTD. Text area here. We just copy the code for the text area. Go return to your project, cancel it, Control C, paste it, and then let's install the control area. So once we have the text, sorry, not control area, let's install the text area. We have the text area, let's have it back running. I think that's the only component that we need from shadcn. The rest we're going to build them. So before talking about the section at wrap form input, we'll talk about it. If we go back to shadcn, at least you guys will probably see why I decided to create that component. So let's go back to forms on the shadcn. If you go back to forms here, you guys will notice one thing, that here it's a form field, right? So each form inside CM have a form field, and these form fields, they are very long, right? So not long, but at least like, let's say 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 lines of code, and having a lot of input components is going to make the code very big. And most of these guys are repetitive. Most of them are repetitive. They get repeated a lot. So what I did is I extracted this guy into code, into its own, into a helper method, so that I have the code a little bit more cleaner. And this helper method now is responsible for setting this property, and we don't have to have these guys copied everywhere. So the component that I created, I call it wrap form input, right? Which just wraps whatever this form field is. You can name it wrap form field just for it to be more explicit. So this wrap form, we will just go to this wrap form, get the component, and then I'll explain. So it's basically what I showed there, but in a more, so let's go back to, we're creating it inside components. So if you notice that most of these components that I use, I don't put it as inside a folder. I just put it inside components, and I create it here because they are reused a lot. So I'll call this wrap form input. Wrap form input.tsx. In this wrap form input, I will save it. Let's talk about it. So it's very simple. If we go back here, it's basically doing the same thing, but I just have to make sure that we can pass a lot of these guys as props since we want to customize it. So it's just taking a form field, and I'm rendering the form item, the label, the control, the message in case there's an error message. Yeah. So I can just change this. Let's just change this to text red. Let's make it more red if there's an issue. Text red. Okay, that's something, yes. Text red. If it's not, we will come back to it and change it. But yeah, so what am I passing as props? The name, which is the name that needs to be changed. I'm also passing the form, the label, class name, in case I want to modify this form field. That's why I have this wrap form input. So basically, similar to whatever that you would have used if you're using the form items, but basically wrap it so that we have the code a little bit more cleaner than just one source of truth, so we can go back. If I come back to the add cost here, something, is it add cost? No, it's in the courses add cost form. One thing that is missing is the section, and I'm going to comment this guy out, and I'll add the component later so I can explain whatever that we have here yet, and later we'll go back to it. So let's say this guy, goodbye. but we will come back to it. So let me close here and then explain what is happening here in this form. See the wrap form input. It's basically what I have before. That's just the wrap form input. What is here a grid column? Yeah, I just need to remove this. This is not necessary. I'll explain. That was the reason why I have it there. When I was trying to have it into two separate, when I was trying to separate the forms, one line, I would have two separate fields, but that's not necessary. We can just have them all in one line. So here is a grid layout, and I'm saying that in the grid, let it to grid column 1. So have one of them per row. This now I'm not sure if grid is needed anymore. This could be flex and just put flex column, but both of them, they do the same thing. They're interchangeable. Performance, sometimes performance is something that we need to consider for CSS, but yeah, for the most part, they do the same thing. Upload image, this is the one that we just created, is the form that we created. But before that, let's talk about here. This is similar to what I explained at the beginning of the tutorial. I want the width to be full, but I don't want the max width to get to 700. I want the max width to be 700. So no matter what we do, the max width is going to be 700. Because I'm saying MD, specify the width. If it is less than MD, then I take the width to be full, which is doing 100% of the width. Yeah, so here's our wrap form input. As you can see, the line of code that we have is shorter than what we would have had if we use the wrap form input direct. And any other form that we have, we can reuse the same function here. It doesn't matter what is it, combo box input, whatever it is. So I have the wrap form input. Here are the props, which is a form that it needs to take. I pass in the form. It takes in a name and a label. And we have an input. So this input field is what I'm taking. So I'm just taking in a function so that the wrap input, I can now pass in a field because this input here needs the field so it can update it. So that's why I'm just using field here. This is a spread operator. Just spreading these fields to be part of it. Once it spread this object, it's now going to be a property inside, a props inside this input field. What is happening here? Nothing much. I'm saying that I need a padding of 4. The width needs to be 4. Max width, MD, I said I don't need a max width on it. Border none. We give it a background of light gray. Mid MD, I'm calculating that the width should be 100% minus 16 pixel, and I'm giving it a height of 35 pixel. So that is the input. I would say similar code. It's a little bit repetitive, except here I have a different component, which is like a text area. Have a placeholder, very similar. Type your course description here. The next one is the project demo URL. So you guys can see from the demo, we have the project demo URL. We have the input here, with just this data, which is just the input field for the project demo URL. And I also have a combo box. Here, it's a combo box. I built this combo box in a previous tutorial. So if you go back to the demo here, this guy is a combo box here that you can select and set. This was built in one of the tutorials. I don't remember which one, but if I do, I will just put it right up here. I'll put a link to that tutorial that builds this combo box. If not, the code is on GitHub, so you just grab it from there. Yeah, here's I set the combo box. Nothing else. So for the most part, it's very, very simple and straightforward. The part that is a little bit complicated is the section part. I guess some of you guys are also interested to see how I did that. Because the section you can add, you can delete a section. I don't know if I just deleted a section, but yeah, we added so many subsections. Goodbye. Bye. Yeah, we can delete a section. You can see it's gone. So I hope this part is clear. It's not just let me know. And I have this button which is just responsible for adding a new section. So let's go into the section form where we add this section, because I feel like this part is also very important and needs to be known. So this is not needed. Goodbye. Combo box. Goodbye. Add section. So let's create a new form, which is a course section add, because that is also basically just for good code. We just separate it. So I will create a new component here that we are going to call the section form, which is basically representing the section. So this part is a little bit complicated. That's why I think it's better for us to separate it. So I'll create inside courses in. Let's create a new file called section form.tsx. And let's bring in the code for the section form. This code, it's I'll try to explain as much as I can. So this is when I was trying to debug to make sure everything is working. That's why I have those print statements. This section form is here's this subsection where we can get a section, because each section is going to be different, right? A user can be adding to the first section that we created, they can be adding to the second section. So we need to validate that. If we go back to the add course form, what do you notice here? I use this field array because it is an array, and this allows us to extract whatever property or whatever values that that was coming back that we save inside the form. If I use field array and I pass it a section, this will now return the sections for me. How is it knowing that this is the section that I want? Because of this name here that I put as section. If I need something different, then I will need to pass that name. If we go back to the schema, where is the add course? If you go back to the schema, we have sections here. That's why I pass section. If I was interested in project, I would just pass in project. It will return. But project is not an array, right? Just an example. Because here it's an array, that's why I use field array. If it's something else, you would go and check the documentation, whatever that you need to do. So it provides you two methods, which is append and remove, that allows you to append and remove. So once I have that field, then I loop through that field. That's why this commented code is coming in. So I loop through this field. I said fields.map course section add, which is just the course that we created. I have a field and then I have an index. Not sure if I need this index. I'll just, it's not a good idea, by the way, to just use the index that is coming from arrays that you're looping in React. It's going to cause a lot of re-rendering that are not necessary. So these fields will now return the fields that we have here. In our case, right now, it would return only one, because one is the field that we have here. If you added a new section, then this field is going to be 2. If you add another one, it's going to be 3. For each of them, we need to have a course add section. So the course add section is the one that renders the section name. It also renders this title, video URL, and this button. If I add it, it will replicate the same UI over and over. So let's go back to our course add section. Inside the course add section, this is where we are handling the name, the section name, the title, and URL. So let me control click. Let's go into course add field. Inside course add field, something that we're doing here is very important to know, because I said that in the previous section, I said you need to pass in section. But here, what we're interested is the subsection video list, because there's a video list which is a subsection, and that subsection is associated to an index, right? That index that it is associated in, we need to find that index. That is why I am passing the ID. So if we go back here, see that I'm passing the ID, which is unique to this form field. So if I go to the next section, I will have everything there. So I need to check which ID is rendering this course section, so that I will make the change to the right. I will make the change to the right field. So if I come back here to the add section, that's why this mean index is doing. So it's just a JavaScript. I think there's a typo here, guys. I type still here. So let me Control F, find it. There are 3 occurrences. I will just rename it to field. I spell it as FEIDS. So it's FIELDS, and I will replace everything. So yikes. What did we just do? Duplicate identifier. Did I identify fields anywhere else? Oh, here. Okay. Let's rename this guy. Yeah, let's rename this guy as. Let's rename this one way of destructuring and rename it. So I will say subsection field, subsection video list field, FIELD fields. This guy here is the one that we're looping into ways the fields. I think we're looping somewhere there. Here, we replace that. There you go. So here is also one way of destructuring and renaming in JavaScript. You can destructure and rename at the same time because we have a variable that I call field. Here, I just destructure it. It is called fields by default, but I just destructure it and give it that name. So what we're doing here, we're saying fields.find index, right? And this fields is every single field that we pass in, and the ID is the one that we pass. So this would give us our index. And here we're saying that the sections dot main index dot video dot section video list, and this will return those fields. There are two methods, or there are more than two methods, but these are the only ones that I'm interested in. So I just destructured them here: append and remove. Here is the wrap form input that we just created. And within this wrap form input, the first part that we have is basically this input here, which is asking for the section name here. To make sure that the right value is changing, that's why I'm putting sections dot main index dot section name, because if I have the first section here, index is 0. If I make a change, it should change this one. If I add another one, the index is 1, it should change that. That's why this is section dot main index dot section name. So there's this input here, and we also have a button that deletes it. So to delete it, all I'm doing is I'm calling this remove section that I pass. So this remove section is the remove section from the add cost component, right? If I come back here, yes, yeah, we renamed this. There was a typo, and we renamed this FBI. Oh, I cannot spell tails, and I'll save that. So this remove section is the remove section that is coming from the main component, which is, what do I mean by main? It's the ones that are coming from section. So here is where if we click this button, this delete section, that's where this remove will now come into play. It will remove everything. That was the reason why I pass it down as props to this component here. So if you go back to the section form, that is what this remove is doing. It's just removing the entire section here. So that's why I have it here. Where did I put a text? Yes, I have the trash, and then I have the delete button. So it just deletes everything. There is another button which says add new section. So if I click on add new section, that's the same way. So I just append a URL and then a title. I think this could be a mistake. It's working fine, but margin top. I think I wanted to give margin top. Let me just put 4 for now, and then we can check that. So here, if I click on add a new section, what I'm doing is this append here is the append for the video section. Yes? So this is the button that is triggered when we click on add subsection, because adding a subsection for, yeah, that's correct. That's not a mistake. For a subsection, we need a title and a video URL. That's why when I append it, I just put empty strings for now. And once we change it, we will now override this empty string. That's why I have this URL to be empty string. That's what this add subsection is doing. So I hope this part is clear now. Yeah, that is what is happening here. It's a little bit tricky, but yeah, this is what is happening here. For the video list, I'll also go through it. It's also very similar to the other one. We're going to say section main list dot subsection, and we use the index.url. Here we're changing the URL. We are going to do the same thing where we're changing the title as well, which in that case is going. Okay, let me close this so I can have a better view. Did I change that? On here, it's just my data before. Yeah, this guy is talking about add a URL. Here is for the URL. Before the URL, that's title, add title. So it's the same thing, guys. Yeah. So I'm doing sections.main index.video section index.title. So it's a little bit complicated, but I feel like this was needed so we can build, so we can have the form to be built at multiple states all at once. I will save this guy. We will come back to our form input. Yeah, so let's get to our project, and we can now open the new course. Did I run? Oh yeah, I restarted, but I did not run. So let me run that and see what is happening. So once that reloads, but yeah, let's reiterate and see if there's anything else that I need to explain further so it will be more clear. Well, it looks like for the main part, we've done it. Yeah. Is there anything else? No, I don't think so. So it seems like I've explained the form for the most part. Yeah, so we have this reload. You see, let me show you guys. It's just hydration error. Blah, 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 blah. This is all coming from the block that we have here because the block is returning an HTML that we are rendering directly. But we will fix it. I have a fix for it later. I'm just going to suppress it. So let's click on add a new course here. We're not seeing this. Oh yes, this makes sense because inside our add course, we are not rendering this component here. So let's remove the high and render our component here. I need to import it. Yes, from add course form. And then I save. So I should expect to see that course to be added here. So should expect that. Yeah, it is reloading here. So you can see on top here. So just expect status up here. Fire. Goodbye. Let me open that. There you go. So we have this, but there is a problem in the styling. It seems like in our say we are not giving it a style. So there is a problem with the style. So we need to go and fix the style. This is coming from the panel. I'm suspecting that the panel is the problem here. So here. So width of 4, max width of 75. Maybe I'll run because I talked about how we can do this. I will put MDs here. And for MD and saying the width should be 785. So we needed to explicitly set the width. And the width is 4. So let's see if this is going to solve the issue for us. It did reload, but doesn't look like it solved the issue for us. Well, let's slide debug then and see what could be causing this. Since then, the size of the set did not change. Here is the content. Coming to one down. SN max width 9. We haven't liked the buttons. Oh, okay, that solves the problem. So let me think how this guy solves the problem. So if this at a small, if the screen size is small, I want the max width to be mom. So I do not have any max width. So okay, I remember I had to do a research on this. So they did set a max width. I don't think I need to put it for the small size. I think I can just disable the max width and we should be good. So once the max width is out, we should be good. No. We return that back. I don't know. Okay, now let's test the responsiveness of this guy. Yeah, it seems like it is. The responsiveness is really amazing. Yeah. It seems like we now have the add cost, so we need to check and see if everything is working fine. Here we're going to add the update. So this is the default value that you guys see when I was testing. So let me just put some random effects here, just to test it. And here the video command needs to be a valid. Choose a project, choose a framework, section name, by the name some add a subsection, introduction, add URL. We should have another subsection. Intro. Now let's put a print statement just to make sure that this is printing the right values and we are updating things as needed. As cost was changed here. Where are we getting the here? Okay, we have a values that we are printing here. So let me open DevTools. Let's open this dial. No. Not trying to test for responsiveness. Close out. It's the console. Goodbye. Let's print out. See what we have. Oh, okay. That's not a valid URL. I see. Guys, to see how that captures that. Very beautiful. So I'll create a course. Yeah, so we have the values. There's some other issues that are caused by, there's a place that encounter children with the same key. I need to change that. So let's see the values that we have, whether they're good. So we have a course description. Yes, we put that random text, course name, we did framework, Next.js, project, course management app, project demo, and now the section. Here's the moment of the inside section. There's only one section. That is true. We only have one. It has pagination tests, and subsection, it has two of them. One of them is intro to pagination, which is this, and the video is localhost entity 3000. The other one is local intro and intro. Yeah, so this is doing good. Let's add a new section just to see that it also captures it. Let me call this new section. Within this new section, let's add a title. There's URL. Let me just put test here. Let me use this, put test just to make sure that we have the right thing. And let me clear the code. So this going to create course. We have our value all the way at the very top. Let me click on it, values section. There you go. We have two of them. We have pagination test. We have new section. And the second one have only one. The subsection here already has only one with this /test. There you go. So we have it. And here is the, if you're new here, please like and subscribe. That is one way of really supporting my channel. My channel is very new. I only have about 300 subscribers. Subscribe to my channel. Help me grow my channel. Like this video for the YouTube algorithm. Peace out. See you guys in the next tutorial.